Karma, Group Karma, Wanderer Karma, and Jesus, Protection on the Positive Path. January the 25th, 2020, Jim channeling. I am Kuo, and am with this instrument at this time. We greet each of you in love and in light. For we are those who, as you, are made of light through the power of love. We are honored once again to have been called your circle of seeking, for it is a circle replete with much experience, dedication, and desire to seek the truth of the nature of one's experience of the infinite creation. And we hope that we may be able to aid you in some fashion today on that journey of seeking which we share with you. We ask you to take those words and thoughts that we shall share with you and use them in whatever way has meaning to you. If we share any word or thought that has no meaning, please do not hesitate to set it aside. In this way, we may share freely with you and hopefully be of more service to you. Therefore, at this time, we would ask if there is a query with which we may begin. Lynn. I have a question, Kuo. In the case of group karma, where a group has been involved in a particular event, if an individual member of that group seeks to alleviate that karma, but the other members of that group have no interest whatsoever in putting out that kind of effort, what might be the best or most useful path for that seeker to take in ameliorating that karma? I am Kuo, and I am aware of your query, my sister. In this instance, we feel that you are well aware of the situation that will proceed from your decision to attempt to ameliorate the situation of which you are referring to. The desire on your part to walk the road of restitution is that desire which blazes a trail, shall we say, in your conscious and in your subconscious mind that has a connection with these entities, so that in your own effort to make restitution, there is a sharing of the possibility of this path being traveled by others. You may see yourself as a kind of wayshower, that in both your conscious and unconscious minds, you construct a pattern of sharing the potential of love to grow within your being, so that you, yourself, become the change that you wish to see in the world of cause and effect. You, by making this decision, take the first step on a journey of 1,000 miles, shall we say. This first step is most crucial, for it is the foundation of all further steps. As you continue to move upon this path of restitution, you begin to build a kind of momentum that is empowered by each further step. You begin to find a strength within that you have not had before. So that, as you take each step, this strength is doubled and redoubled. So that you are greater than you were many-fold as you continue on this journey of restitution. We are aware that you have a kind of feeling of karma, shall we say, that is related to a larger grouping of entities that they themselves have a feeling of as well. You are unusual, even unique in this grouping, in your desire to stop the wheels of karma. Seeing that, even though it is a monumental task, this is the time to begin that journey. Is there a further query, my sister? Lynn. I would just ask if the law of squares would come into play in what you were saying. I am Kuo, and am aware of your query, my sister, and this is indeed a concept which we were expressing when we mentioned that each succeeding step will double and redouble the power of your determination to, shall we say, open the doors to love and restitution. Is there a further query, my sister? Lynn. No, thank you, Kuo. I am Kuo, and we thank you, my sister. Is there another query at this time? Gary. Kuo, I'm going to read a few sentences from Ra. The final sentence in this excerpt has confused even the greatest scholars of the Ra contact. Ra says, the largest number of wanderers, as you call them, are of the sixth density. The desire to serve must be distorted toward a great deal of purity of mind and what you may call foolhardiness or bravery, depending upon your distortion complex judgment. The challenge/danger of the wanderer is that it will forget its mission, become karmically involved, here's the tough part, and thus be swept into the maelstrom from which it had incarnated to aid the destruction. Can you lend any clarity to and thus be swept into the maelstrom from which it had incarnated to aid the destruction? I am Kuo, and aware of your query, my brother. The maelstrom that is referred to in this quote is the confusion that exists within each third density illusion, into which wanderers offer themselves through incarnation, to attempt to alleviate the effects of the maelstrom of confusion within the third density illusion, the desire to aid in the reduction of confusion and the forces of negativity that have long surrounded many of the population of this planet on other third density planets that suffered the same difficulty in achieving harvest, is that which has followed these entities here to your earth plane, shall we say. The maelstrom which each of the repeating third density groupings has been brought with them is a kind of, shall we say, catastrophic, non-loving experience that has an infective or infection quality that seems for many to grow more potent as each additional effort to polarize sufficiently for fourth density graduation fails. Thus the wanderers who offer themselves in service to this planet and its variety of repeating populations realize they are incarnating into a storm, a consciousness storm of failure, a storm of retribution, a storm of the desire to move out of the sinkhole in which they find themselves, and yet find the movement to be nearly impossible. The reason this maelstrom has the, shall we say, sinkhole quality of drawing these entities into it is that there is the continued failure to put forth the necessary effort to make progress on the spiritual path. This creates a kind of inner turmoil which is reflected outwardly for each entity, so that there is a cumulative increase in exponential terms for the confusion, doubt, anger, fear, and so forth that form the emotional framework for such entities. The wanderers are well aware of this type of negative magnetism, shall we say, that there is a drawing unto this storming condition by the entities who have experienced it so many times within that or other third density experiences. Thus, the wanderer realizes that there is a kind of momentum working against them as they seek to be of service to those who are the victims of this momentum. This maelstrom that has long been a part of their spiritual journey. Is there a further query, my brother? Gary. Thank you. The assumption had been that Ra's syntax was a little off in transmitting that reply, and your reply was very clarifying. Another question. Also from the Ra contact. The question asks what could one of these entities do to become karmically involved? Ra replies, an entity which acts in a consciously unloving manner in action with other beings can become karmically involved. Can you elaborate on what it means to be consciously unloving? I am Kuo, and am aware of your query, my brother. It is usually the pattern of behavior of negatively oriented entities to be unloving or separative with entities about them, to control these entities in some fashion, so that their power may be ascribed to the negatively oriented entity with the greater power. To be consciously unloving for the negatively oriented entity is the very nature of its journey. However, we find that there are many entities who are most usually seen as being positively oriented, that also, in some instances, for some reason, may express this type of negativity to other entities within its circle of being. The wanderer, in many instances, becomes confused upon its path of service, having been subject to many of the paralyzing effects of living as a wanderer within this third density illusion. These paralyzing effects may have a distorting feature for such a wanderer, so that it may confusedly feel that it is accomplishing a positive task by behaving in a negative manner, feeling the end justifies the means, shall we say. Such a wanderer, in this confused comprehension of its service, then may exert a controlling behavior upon another entity which it feels needs this controlling behavior in order to benefit from the supposed wisdom of the wanderer. This is a kind of situation which redounds to the very being of a wanderer, who has in its original desire to incarnate to be of service, found itself at the mercy of, as we said before, the kind of difficulties and traumatic experiences that the wanderer is likely to encounter that has caused a distortion within the perceptions of the wanderer. This is a situation which can require that the wanderer, upon moving from this illusion into the afterworld, shall we say, as it begins to assess the incarnation just completed, will discover that its perceptions cause behaviors upon its part that will now require that it relearn those lessons that were seemingly forgotten within the previous incarnation. This relearning of lessons of opening the heart to unconditional love may require the repetition of the entire 75,000-year master cycle of third density. Thusly, the wanderer will hopefully begin to build a firmer foundation within its own beingness in order to be able to more clearly apprehend the nature of the services which it wished to offer in the previous incarnation. Is there a further query, my brother? Gary. 2 super quick follow-ups. So are you saying, Kuo, that the consciously unloving activity that accumulates karma is essentially any activity which seeks to intentionally infringe on the free will of another through control or manipulation, whether or not the reasons are confused? I am Kuo, and am aware of your query, my brother, and would say that you have correctly surmised that which we meet, we correct this instrument, which we were attempting to express. Gary. In that case, would say you also use the word negativity, and that's where I'm attempting to explore, because many positive beings have a variety of experiences of negativity, sometimes communicated. So for the entity who may have a, say, knee-jerk reaction of anger, or frustration, or other form of negativity, does that fall within the karma accumulating unloving activity? I'm Kuo, and am aware of your query, my brother. In general, we would say this is not the case. For there must be a pattern of this type of negative expression of control over another self that would cause the wanderer or any other entity so demonstrating this controlling behavior to need to repeat the master cycle of third density experience. The knee-jerk reaction to which you refer is a kind of experience of catalyst, which to the conscientious seeker of truth becomes an opportunity to balance in the overall sense of its beingness, so that the anger may be balanced by the love that was absent in the expression of anger as the catalyst was experienced. Is there another query at this time? Lin. Ko, Ra said that Jesus accumulated karma by destroying the body of another self accidentally, and that karma was alleviated in the moments before his death, when he forgave those who were destroying his body. My question is, for the aware individual, can karma be alleviated in a moment through forgiveness? I am Kuo, and am aware of your query, my sister. Indeed, we would suggest that if an entity has experienced the type of karma or accumulation of the responsibility to alleviate difficulties for which the entity is responsible, if in the heart of such an entity's being there is the pure and inspired recognition of such a responsibility, it is possible for such an entity to alleviate the karmic debt. The depths of the being, then, take within it the alleviation of this karmic responsibility, that is to say, the depths of the being which are infinitely connected to the one infinite creator and the one infinite creation, then are utilized in what might be seen as the magical sense, so that there is the opportunity to create a change in the consciousness of the seeker of truth, who wishes to ameliorate the karmic debt. When this feeling of restitution grows to such a pitch within the being of the entity, then the universal ability of the creation and the one creator to dissolve all debt is then called into being within the consciousness of the seeker who wishes to ameliorate or alleviate the karmic debt. Is there a further query, my sister? Lynn. I would just ask if I guess I would say the type of magical visualization I've been doing in meditation recently, if that would be along the lines of what you're saying, if I'm anywhere near the track of what you're saying. I am Kuo and am aware of your query, my sister. Indeed, we find that the practice of which you speak is the beginning formulation of this type of indication of desire that can be reflected in a greater and greater magnitude as the visualization continues upon a daily or even more frequent periodicity than that. The desire, then, would cause the periodicity also to be utilized, perhaps in a more frequent manner, perhaps in a more intense manner, perhaps in a more intricate manner, determined by your own conscious decision. This is a type of visualization which can be enhanced in various ways, as we have mentioned. And this type of visualization then can be quite constructive in its ability to enhance your desire to alleviate the karma. Is there a further query, my sister? Lynn. I don't know if you'll be able to answer this, but with the visualization, I suppose you can read my thoughts on this. With the pyramid visualization that I'm thinking of, would that improve this process in any way? I am Kuo and am aware of your sis. We correct this instrument aware of your query, my sister. We find that there is a certain line across which we may not move in the response to the query. For we do not wish to infringe upon your free will, but we would suggest that you are upon the correct line of thinking. The type of visualization which you are using is a good beginning. There are, as we have said, additions to this, which you are already aware of and may incorporate. Is there another query at this time? Gary. Yes. I'm glad Lynn brought up the example of Jesus. Because by Ra's report, Jesus became angry at a playmate and ended that playmate's life. And upon doing so, discovered that he had a terrible power within himself, which galvanized him to rectify that wrong, and to learn its positive uses. So it seems that Jesus' destruction of his playmate was something of a knee-jerk reaction. He reacted with anger and killed his friend. In that case, how did this accumulate karma for the one known as Jesus? I am Kuo, and am aware of your query, my brother. The normal type of knee-jerk reaction for most entities within your third density illusion is one which makes use of a much lesser type of behavior than the ending of an incarnation. To describe the terrible effect of the power which Jesus utilized in the ending of the playmate's life as a knee-jerk reaction is, in some ways, a lack of clarity or purity in the definition of knee-jerk reaction. For the incarnation of each entity within any illusion, most especially the third density illusion where the veil of forgetting plays such a significant role, is the behavior which removes from the entity, that is, shall we say, killed, an entire incarnational experience that may have been many, many years long, had the power which was used in a terrible fashion not been so used. The power within the entity known as Jesus was the ability to contact intelligent infinity, which of itself is not colored, shall we say, in any particular means or manner. The utilization of such a power is that which can be described as terrible, or beneficial, or enlightened, and so forth. Thus, the definition of the terms is that which holds the crux of the conceptualization facility here. The knee-jerk reaction was that which partook in the removal of a great span of experience from the playmate. However, we would suggest that in this particular instance, the playmate was also a part of this process in a pre-incarnative sense, so that there was the agreement that this experience would be utilized by both entities in a positive sense. In the end, shall we say, the one known as Jesus, being spurred to investigate for the rest of his incarnation the positive uses of this power, that indeed was able to be utilized in many inspiring ways, the healing of the blind, the curing of the sick, the raising of the dead, and so forth. The young entity who was removed from the incarnation by the one known as Jesus, gave its life for this experience of the one known as Jesus, so that it, in the ultimate sense, was also able to benefit from this experience. However, within the incarnation of the third density, this was not known by the one known as Jesus or the young entity, so that this removal of the life of the young entity then, was that which potentially could have removed many years of helpful experience. Is there a further query, my brother Gary? The act of taking another's life is one of the most severe available to a third density experience. And on that level, I could understand why it would accumulate karma. But I guess I'm fuzzy on the difference between the knee-jerk reaction and the conscious intention that seeks to control and manipulate. When I think of knee-jerk, I think of a reactive pattern that is triggered and elicits an unconscious response from the entity. You know, the entity might blurt out something, say something, or in the case of Jesus, use his terrible power to kill his friend. Whereas conscious intention is an intention that's formulated within the self, and then is carried out and executed rather than being a reactive point. I wouldn't think that Jesus would have consciously intended to act unloving to his playmate, but rather have that triggered knee-jerk unconscious reaction. Can you clarify the difference between those two? I am Kuo, and am aware of your query, my brother. We find that there is some difficulty in clarification due to individual interpretation of the knee-jerk reaction versus the conscious decision to behave in a negative manner. The knee-jerk reaction may indeed be a reflection of the continuous unconscious pattern of thought, which would tend to repeat itself from time to time. So that the entity, so experiencing the unconscious repetition of negative behavior, would find itself at some point able to recognize the pattern within its life and seek to balance this pattern of behavior. The conscious desire to be of a controlling or negative effect upon others about one is indeed the type of behavior of negativity-oriented entities. The conscious decision to control others is that of negative polarity. Thus, we would suggest that the one known as Jesus was not responding to a pattern of negativity within its own being, so that there would be the need to balance the behavior over a longer period of time. The one known as Jesus was more able to see the effect that it caused in the playmate, so that it took upon itself a kind of karmic responsibility to balance the taking of the life. The speaking of the words upon the cross, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do," was the culmination of the entity known as Jesus' effect or desire to seek a restitution or a balancing of its karmic debt. Is there a further query, my brother? Gary. A quick one. In terms of Jesus dissolving his karmic debt, was it the willing giving of his life, and the subsequent loss of life on the cross, was that the significant factor? Or was it his expression of forgiveness of those who had put him on the cross that was a significant factor? Kuo. I am Kuo, and I am aware of your query, my brother. The significant factor, as we are able to determine it in this instance, was the desire of the one known as Jesus to speak these words upon the cross, that it might do more good, shall we say, for those witnessing its crucifixion by speaking these words, that were the culmination of its lifelong desire to balance the karmic debt of the taking of the life of the playmate. And at the same time, by speaking these words, let those observing the crucifixion know that forgiveness was the path to healing. Is there another query at this time? Gary. Another R1. Ra says there's no outward shelter in your illusion from the gusts, flurries, and blizzards of quick and cruel catalyst. However, to the pure, all that is encountered speaks of the love and the light of the one infinite creator. The cruelest blow is seen with an ambience of challenges offered and opportunities to come. Thusly, the great pitch of light is held high above such an one, so that all interpretation may be seen to be protected by light. Can you elaborate, Kuo, on what pitch of light is that is held high above such an one? I'm Kuo, and am aware of your query, my brother. An entity which is able to see clearly the purpose of the third density illusion, is able to see that no matter what experience is encountered, the potential for each experience is enlightenment. In one degree or another, all experience, all catalyst, may then be viewed in this light that sees opportunities to grow, to serve, to love, to transcend. These opportunities then become much as the jewels in the chest that show a great value for the third density illusion. Such an entity with clear vision then has a kind of way shower quality. This quality is that which imbues the entity with the light of the wisdom of seeing the purpose of the third density illusion. This light grows ever more bright as this entity or this type of entity is able to continue polarizing in the positive sense by utilizing what might be seen by others to be the most traumatic and tragic of catalysts. Yet, when such an entity can see through the catalyst, see through the trauma to the opportunity within, then this pitch of light begins to glow ever more brightly all around the entity, being seen by those who have eyes to see, as a pitch of light above the entity in the same fashion as some can see what is called the halo, the aura, the indication of one's movement upward through the energy centers reaching the indigo and violet rays, so that all catalyst has been processed from red through violet, in a manner which causes the light of love, the light of being, the light of unity, to indicate to all who have eyes to see that this entity has seen it all, and used it all, and grown from it all, and is now one with all. Is there a further query, my brother? Gary. That was beautiful. In that same sentence, Ra says that the pitch of light is held high above, so that all interpretation may be seen to be protected by light. There's a concept of protection for the positive path that's not available on the negative path. And I've grappled with what it means to be protected on the positive path. Does that mean, say for instance, if you are mistakenly walking in front of a bus, that an unseen force may give you a nudge out of the way? Or some other negative circumstance, you may have to foreclose on your house, and something intervenes to help rescue you? Or rescue or preserve or assist in some way? Could you elaborate on what it means to receive protection on the positive path? I am Kuo, and am aware of your query, my brother. We find that this protection is given in proportion to the purity of the seeking of the positive path. For there are various types of desire, various expressions of faith, various expressions of will, various degrees of purity of service to others. The protection that is spoken of, that quotation, is a protection which may be given in varying degrees, as you have mentioned some of these degrees. The ultimate for the seeker of truth who so ardently seeks to do the will of the one infinite Creator, who seeks first the kingdom of heaven, shall we say, will find that all else will be added unto it, so that it may, in this ultimate sense of pure seeking to serve others, discover that the arms of the Creator, figuratively speaking, surround it with a robe of light, to protect it from all negatively oriented influence. However, any seeker of truth may partake in some degree of this very same protection, so that, according to its desire, its will to seek to serve the one and all, it may be able to receive or realize different kinds of protection in its journey of seeking. Each entity within this circle of seeking this day is aware, in his own personal experience of various times, when there seemed like there was a difficulty that would overtake one, and yet, at the last moment, in some fashion, there was an interjection of unseen forces, that resulted in the resolution of the difficulty that was impending. Each entity will continue on the path of seeking truth to experience such unseen hands, aiding the journey of seeking, for each has the guides, the friends, the teachers in the unseen realms that look over one's shoulder, shall we say. And when the time is right and the heart is pure, find the protection provided. Is there a final query at this time? Gary. Thank you for that response. Would you say that while there are levels of protection that are connected to circumstance and the providing of energy and support to the incarnate entity, that the deepest protection is how the incarnate entity frames the moment and understands the moment? As Ras says, the great pitch of light is held high above such an one, so that all emphasis, interpretation may be seen to be protected by light. I am Kuo, and am aware of your query, brother. Indeed, the means by which one frames the interpretation of any kind of catalyst is the factor which reflects the inner opening of the heart in unconditional love. For it is the unconditional love, the compassion, that one feels within one's being for all entities and experiences about one that allow one to interpret these entities and experiences in a positive fashion. Such interpretation then, by the purely open-hearted entity, sees all other entities as the self, as the creator, showing the self the path to the one, the path being fueled by unconditional love, so that there is no obstruction to such a path, for all is seen as the one within all being, within the self, within the creation, within all other entities. Thus, one who can see purely with the open heart sees the one. At this time, we shall take our leave of this instrument and this group. We leave each of you in the love and the light in which we found you, for that is all that there is, the love and the light of the one infinite Creator, which guides each of us on our path of seeking. We are honored to be on that path with you. We thank you for your invitation this day for us to join you here. We are known to you as those of Kuo. Adonai, Vasu Baragas.